Hey there everyone, welcome to the Wasteland. This is Mad Max. Now, first off, I want to start off by saying that I've been playing a lot of this to get up to this point, but as with pretty much any open world game that I'm doing, this is going to be the same with the Phantom Pain later, I'm going to try my best to avoid any kind of story spoilers. Now that might be a little more difficult with Phantom Pain, but with this, that means I can just kind of run around the world doing side kind of activities, things like that, and not progressing the main story. So if you're hoping to avoid spoilers, then I will not be talking about any sort of big story events that would spoil you or anything like that, and I'm gonna deliberately not do any missions or anything like that that are part of the main quest line. So, what is Mad Max? Well, it is not a movie tie-in game, first thing to start off with. It is not related to the movies directly, as in you're not playing through one of them. In the similar vein to the Arkham Knight games, the Batman games, they aren't, based on any of the movies or TV shows or anything like that. They're in the universe with the characters, but they're not directly following any sort of path of a movie or anything. Same with Mad Max, you're not playing through Fury Road or anything like that. It's hard to say if it's sort of canon with the movies. Honestly, it's hard to say if Fury Road is even canon with the original three, but in this case, if it was, this would be afterwards, because there are a couple of references to Fury Road, like the main bad guy, who is a son of one of the main antagonists of Fury Road, but that's pretty much as far as it goes, and of course you have some familiar locations like Gastown. And the general theme in Wasteland is intact, and of course everyone has ridiculous names, but other than that, it doesn't actually follow a path of the movie or anything, so it is an open-world, third-person action game focused on car combat and melee combat, developed by Avalanche, which are the guys behind the Just Cause games in the upcoming Just Cause 3, which I believe is coming out in December, and published by WB, Warner Brothers, because they have the rights, just like they do with Batman. Now, people were worried about the port of this game because of Arkham Knight being an absolute unmitigated disaster. I am happy to say that this is not. This is a near-perfect port. It has almost all of the options you could ever want, and it runs flawlessly. I am maxing it out with everything as high as it can go, cranked up to max. It looks very good, and I do mean literally crank up to max, because a couple of the settings actually, of course, go up to max, as a joke, yes. And it runs at a solid 60 frames per second all the way through, and because that's my refresh rate, it does run higher than that if you want it to. It's my monitor's 60 Hz monitor, so there's no point in me doing that. And yeah, it is an extremely good PC version. It has very good keyboard and mouse control, even though a lot of it is based on driving. Some people have complained that the driving is a little weird. It's deliberately so. It's not unresponsive or sluggish, but it's well, your cars are made of crap. They're made of just pieced together bits of junkyard trash, so they're not going to be extremely high performance vehicles, but they do drive. They're just very, we'll say, they're a bit heavy, but they actually work very well with a keyboard and mouse, and of course the game supports controllers right out of the box, and it works just fine with those. So, jumping into the game, where am I? This is the Balefire Lighthouse. This is one of the strongholds of the game. There are several strongholds that you will visit, because there are some friends that you're trying to make. Of course, as your companion said, there are no favors nor friends in the Wasteland, but this is about the best you can do. And there are various strongholds you can find and build up. You may see these projects dotted around the place. As you can see, they need parts, which you will find by exploring, and you can build various things to upgrade their strongholds. So I built this oil well here, so my car gets refueled whenever I go back here for free. Fuel is, of course, necessary. You can find gas cans out in the wilderness, but sometimes it's nice to have a more reliable way of refueling. This guy makes it to where whenever I go back to the stronghold, I get all of my holdable ammo refilled, and I'll go into the whole ammo and all that later when we actually get into the main gameplay. Basically, every stronghold has a bunch of these different projects that you can build. There are 3 main strongholds that you're going to be accessing kind of most of the way through the game. We're talking, I'm not like near the end or anything, we're just talking the 3 main ones. There is a 4th one that's much later, but... And, you will be returning here. The sort of main people, that's Jeet up there. He's absolutely insane, as is pretty much everyone in the Wasteland, but he helps you as long as you help him. And they will offer side quests called wasteland missions, as well as actual main story missions, and sometimes you'll be able to come back and complete some projects which will help build up the actual stronghold itself. It'll start to look different as you actually complete more stuff and kind of build it up to a bit of a former glory, as it were. So let's get into the actual gameplay. To do that, we must get into our vehicle. Oh yes, welcome to the wasteland. So this is the actual open world. It's huge. The actual world you're in, of course, is very barren, but it's not empty, if that makes sense. There's actually a lot to find. And you can do stupid things like this. So it is hugely advantageous to explore this wasteland, and the car is your main tool of the game. As it is in pretty much all of the movies, cars are very important, because you're not going anywhere without one. Due to everything being so spaced out and dangerous, you need a vehicle, and your magnum opus is your main vehicle. You can actually find and destroy other vehicles' drivers and things like that, and actually steal them and take them back to a stronghold. You can drive pretty much any vehicle in the game, but this is the only one that you can actually customize, which makes sense. Why would you want to spend your valuable resources on spreading them out on a bunch of different cars? You want to customize your main vehicle. That brings me on to one of the most impressive parts of the game, the actual vehicle customization, so let's get into that. You go to your pause menu whenever you want, and you have your max menu, which actually allows you to customize your character. So these are the options for customizing max. You have various different upgrade paths that are unlocked in different ways. Knuckle dusters are, of course, your melee combat. Jacket is for armor. So is that. This is your ammo belt. This is important because, just like in the movies, ammunition is very scarce. And the gunplay is actually not a focus of the game, just, again, like in the movies, but when guns are used, it's very impactful. Your shotgun is pretty much an instant kill on almost any enemy, and it can also, if you aim it properly, destroy cars very easily. But shotgun shells aren't easy to come by. You also have a makeshift sniper rifle, which you can use, a harpoon, the Thunderpoon, yes, that's what it's called, that basically is a sort of makeshift rocket launcher, and shivs, which are knives that are expended every time you use one, but they're basically instant kills on stunned enemies in melee combat. And you can also pick up melee weapons, as is very standard for Mad Max. It mostly focuses on melee combat. The melee weapons are very fleeting, you don't carry one all the time, and when you have one it will break fairly quickly, but they're very, very strong. And the combat system I'll have to show you. Let's see, you can also change your look, you can mess with your shotgun, including adding many barrels to it, but of course you have to be quite a higher rank to actually get that. And you also have your various tools, things like your flare gun, pliers, a flashlight, a crowbar, or Jimmy bar, this is Australia, a canteen for water, and longlookers, aka binoculars, to us that speak English. Wasteland English is very silly on purpose. And you have a long list of various skills that you can unlock that improve your melee combat abilities, adding different types of finishers, different types of counter moves, and things like that. But the main meat of the customization is all this. Yes, huge menu. This is your car customization, so you can customize nearly every aspect of your vehicle, and it's very important to do so. Every one of these categories has multiple choices in it. Now, these are mostly unlocked at first through doing some of the earlier story missions, as you can, whenever you hover over a locked one, it tells you what is required. In this case, there is a wasteland mission, so a side quest called Beat to Quarters, that I have to beat in order to obtain this particular piece of front armor, the ramming grill. And also, you can reduce threat level in various territories, which is, again, something I'll explain, I promise, to unlock further customizations. Most of this, as well as pretty much a lot of the actual progression in the game, is actually done on your own, by which I mean the earlier story missions unlock several things, but once you have pretty much every category unlocked, most of the rest of the actual progress you're making on your customizing your vehicle and yourself is done on your speed. So most of the main quests that actually unlock stuff are early on, and after that you kind of do it at your own pace. So yeah, you can customize nearly everything. So as you can see, a lot of these aren't based on main story missions. They're either based on exploring areas and actually reducing the threat level, or doing side quests. So main story missions only unlock the first couple of these categories, or the first couple of options in each category, and then after that you're kind of left to your own devices to customize it to your heart's content, and there's a lot you can do. So this is awesome. This is a huge feature of the game, and it's very important. And, man, look at all the engine choices up to V8s, which that's one of the last things you actually unlock via a story mission is the first V8. Other than that, you're left to your own devices to explore, find, and upgrade. And as you progress through the story, you'll very quickly realize that a lot of this stuff you really need to do. For instance, when you first get past the jaw, something, you know, I'm not going to really spoil for you, but once you get past the jaw in the story, you'll realize that a lot of the camps and places and things you have to do are requiring some more leveled up equipment to be able to do them more efficiently, so you'll probably want to go back into the earlier territories and complete some side quests and stuff to actually get yourself prepared. So the game definitely doesn't hold your hand in that regard. It very much allows you to kind of do it at your own speed, and really the game sort of gives you the tools from the beginning after you do the first 10 or so main quests, actually more like 6 or 7 main quests, and then just says, here's the world to go, and you kind of do it at your own speed, which is really cool. I appreciate that. And a lot of open world games feel like they have very heavily extended tutorials, you know? Far Cry games are very guilty of that. In this case, the sort of early missions are your tutorials, and after that, for like 90% of the game, you're left to just do what you want. Which is awesome, by the way. And the story is quite good. The characters are interesting and very eccentric, we'll say, as is classic Mad Max style. And man, look at all this stuff. You can get various car bodies unlocked. Ooh, yeah, I got the Ripper. I forgot about that. No, I don't want to install it right now. And you have a lot of stats. So some of this isn't... most of them are linear upgrades. As you can see, like, basically these are all better than the last. But some of them aren't as linear because things like the ramming grill and the armor actually add a lot of weight to your car, which can decrease your top speed, your acceleration, and your handling, making your car more sluggish to drive if you don't have an engine and tires and things to actually compensate for the added weight. So you have to be a little bit careful with the order you upgrade things in if you want to stay as a really sort of fast and agile car, but if you want to build a really heavy kind of slugger type car, you could totally do that. And there are various car bodies available to actually do that with. So, what's the world like? Well, as you may expect, it is a wasteland, and there's actually a surprising amount to do. So if I go to the map, you'll see that the world is actually huge. Like, it's all of this. It's very, very large. And each one of these is a different character's territory with various things in them. So if we zoom in, you can see all of these things to do. So, for instance, let me go over here. There is a sniper in that tower right there that I can take out to help reduce the threat level in this territory, which, as you saw, helps me unlock things and get more appreciated. So that is a sniper. I don't want to get too close and get shot, but from here, I should be able to take them out before they kill me. And there we go. And as you can see, that lowered the threat a little bit. Another way to lower the threat would be to destroy scarecrows, which I'm going to show you right now. Oh yeah, the car handling and customization is awesome. The sound design in the game, by the way, is absolutely phenomenal. It is fantastic. You can... every engine actually has a... oh god. A different sound. Even, like, all of the V6 engines actually sound and feel very much different, and I'm imagining the V8 engines being really awesome. Okay. So that is a scarecrow. The point of which is pretty obvious. It is to kind of say, hey, we own this turf, stay away. Which is why you can tear them down in order to decrease the threat level, making the kind of grip of terror of the main bad guys a little less grippy and terrifying. Yes. So, if I was to drive over here... yeah, that doesn't work. That was dumb. It was awesome, but it was dumb. You have a harpoon, and you can attach it to just about anything and pull it. And in this case, I can pull this down, and there we go. Pull down the scarecrow. I'm gonna have him repair my car. As you can see, your hunchback friend here, Chumbucket is his name, because of course it is, travels with you. He uses most of the weapons in the back of your car, and he can also repair it. Whenever you get out of the car, he'll actually start repairing it automatically, which is a nice feature, but you can also tell him to hop up and repair it whenever you want. But you have to be standing still, of course, because, you know, you don't want the poor guy to fly off. Although it would be kind of funny. He uses the harpoon, the thunderpoon, and I swear that's what it's called, and you switch places with him for the sniper rifle, and he can actually drive the car around a bit slowly to help you kind of maneuver with the sniper rifle to make it less annoying, so you don't have to like constantly reposition and then go back out to the sniper rifle and see if you have a shot now and then reposition again. Yeah, they've thought of a lot of kind of quality of life improvements to make the game a little less annoying. It's definitely a pretty smooth experience. Oh, there's another scarecrow, it looks like. You can also ram scarecrows, depending on the type of front grille you have and the speed and weight of your car. In this case, that is actually a strong scarecrow, I believe, which means that it's a bit harder to ram down, but I'm going to try it anyway because, you know, it's fun. You can also find these convoys, which are a lot like the kind of car battles in Mad Max. It really feels like that. Very hectic, people jumping onto your car, yeah, things like that. And destroying cars in car combat is really, really satisfying. The sort of hectic car combat with lots and lots of cars on you is one of the highlights of the game for sure. And this is the currency, scrap. Destroying cars, destroying scarecrows, anything metal basically will drop scrap for you. And scrap is used, of course, for upgrades, for helping some of the strongholds, and for upgrades to yourself as well as your car. And now let's go to one of these. So on the map you'll see a lot of these. These are scavenging locations. There are different types of scavenging locations. Some of them are camps with enemies you have to kill. Some of them are just like ancient sites of destroyed things that you need to search through. In this case, it looks like a camp because it has a water source, which means it's probably manned by people. But maybe not. The wasteland is dotted with little places like these. Ooh, good. One of my favorite parts about exploring in this game is that, as empty as it might seem, there are a lot of sort of unmarked stories. You may remember in some open world games like the Elder Scrolls games, you have a lot of places that kind of have their own self-contained stories. They're not quests. You don't have to get a quest to go there. You just sort of find a journal, or you just sort of see things that have happened that lead you to believe that there were certain happenings at that location. In this case, this used to be a camp, but it is now abandoned, and there are a large number of bodies that were burned here for some reason. So kind of take of that what you will. Every location actually has its own sort of self-contained story. I've come across a camp, for instance, that was very clearly a kind of human leather farm, more or less, which is very disturbing, but hey, it's the wasteland. I've come across another one that was sort of like, they were obviously kind of taking and putting up car parts and like almost sacrificing car bodies in like a ritualistic way, like kind of Wicker Man style, actually. And none of this is actually marked in a way that tells you what it is. It's just you explore the wasteland and find them and kind of make the stories in your head about, you sort of piece it together. In this case, this was obviously a camp of some kind. It's now a debris site, as you can tell, which means there's no one here anymore. Like, people lived here, something happened, and there were a bunch of bodies being burned up there, and I obviously got here a bit late. There's some of the parts for projects back at the stronghold. That's a maggot farm. Yes, maggots are, in fact, a source of food. Also, dog food is a very common source of food. And, actually, dogs themselves are a source of food. But don't worry, you don't have to eat any dogs. In fact, you save one. Food restores your health very quickly, and you also have a canteen, so this restores your health more slowly. This is almost a Dark Souls-like mechanic, I suppose, because it's a bit like an Estus flask in that you have to stand still to drink it. It takes a minute to drink, and it doesn't restore your health very quickly. It takes time. So actually doing it in the middle of a fight is a bit difficult, and isn't something you generally can do all that often. You have to, like, the enemies are pretty fierce in this, as you would expect from Mad Max. Like, they're crazy and will constantly attack you. They don't give you a lot of breathing room. But you do have a canteen that can refill your health more frequently than finding food, and you can find these. Different water sources. There are rain catchers and things like that, which you can find to refill your canteen, to heal yourself. And you can also find wandering wastelanders that need water, and you can actually give like half of your water to them in order to sort of get some appreciation and possibly some tips, like where to find loot and things like that. So this is very much one of those games where you're not led around and you're meant to find your own way through the stories and kind of just look at the stories on your own. Like, I mean, whatever happened here was bad because there are like dozens of bodies being burned. Who knows what happened? Maybe it was a camp of wastelanders and one of the convoys came through and killed them all. Who knows? But whatever happened, it's not pretty. What else is there to do? Well, besides the main quests, which are very good, quite varied, and I'm not going to show you, there are these wasteland missions. I'm on one right now to find various sources of basically the requirements for gunpowder. So I need to find saltpeter and sulfur, basically. I need to find like volcanic vents and sources of saltpeter, which I'm guessing are probably going to be places where a bunch of people have died because saltpeter grows on bodies. Well, it doesn't grow, but you get the idea. And yes, a saltpeter tree. And there are a significant number of places to go. These red roads are convoy locations. So let me try and show you one of those. In classic open world style, you are free to do pretty much whatever you want. But I like the fact that it doesn't hold your hand, and it very much just says, like, find your own way. Do it on your own time, and, oh god! Like this, for instance. This isn't marked on the map at all, it's just a piece of scrap that I could find. It turns out there were people waiting in the sand to ambush me. In classic Mad Max style. These are the sand people. The, buzzards, they can pop out of the sand and kill you, which is terrifying. And there you saw a little bit of the melee combat. It is kind of Arkham style, but it is a bit different than the Arkham games. But if you've never played one of the Arkham games, what that means is it's very, it's kind of a flowing combat style. Lots of clicking, and you just kind of chain together combos on the various enemies around you. You face whatever enemy you want to fight, and then click, and then you kind of move towards them. But it's a lot slower and more deliberate than the Arkham style of combat. It's a lot heavier as well, because you're not Batman. In the Batman games, you know, you're somersaulting over enemies, you're dashing back and forth. Max can't do that. He is not a superhero, and he just kind of fights to the best of his ability, and that means there's actually a significant amount of impact to the actual combat. It is slow, but not sluggish. I totally T-boned that guy into oblivion. And also, it's a bit more difficult than Arkham-style combat because the counter button in Arkham games is pretty much the I win button. You hit the counter button and enemies can't touch you. In this case, the counter button doesn't necessarily win you the fight because all the counter does is catch an enemy's attack. Uh-oh. Ooh, old, windmills there. Sorry. Not at all. And since the counter button doesn't automatically win you the fight, the fighting is a bit more difficult. It's not extremely challenging, this isn't like an amazingly hard game, but you do die fairly quickly. And your car can't take a huge beating either, so when you're surrounded by like 5 or 6 vehicles, it can be a bit more challenging. Ooh. Old world wind turbines. Skeletons that remain are a grim reminder of the futile efforts and folly of mankind. Yeah, pretty much everything is a bio as well, which I love. There's a lot of enemy variety in the game, and one thing to say about the way that the combat works... That's not what happened, sir. The counter button doesn't cancel out of whatever you're doing. That's one of the things that made Arkham combat so easy. No matter like how much of a sort of combo you're in the middle of, you can always hit the counter button and it cancels out of whatever attacks you're doing. Oh god. Oh, he died. And allows you to basically like always counter, essentially. In this, you cannot do that. If you're in the middle of a combo and you hit the counter button, it's not going to counter unless you were kind of able to stop swinging just in time. you can't cancel out of your attacks in such an acrobatic way as Batman does. So that makes the counter button less of an I win button. It's still powerful, yes, but the enemies also don't take their time in this case, because it is Mad Max. Oh god, the enemies are fairly, they're fairly chaotic in the way that they attack. They don't wait. In Batman, a lot of times, even if you're surrounded by 10 goons, they'll attack you one by one. In Mad Max, that doesn't happen as often. You'll get 2 or 3 or 4 enemies going after you all at the same time. And that means you can't just wait around and counter everything. Since the counter doesn't cancel your actions very easily, you can't just mash the counter button and end up unscathed. You're not that lucky. So yeah, melee combat is actually very, very satisfying in this. But let's talk about the car combat. Rip off his tires, there we go. The car combat is amazing. You have a boost that you can do, as you see there. You also have this maneuver, which I'll show you. If you hold the middle mouse button and then tap a direction, your car kind of swerves off, like to ram people off the road, that kind of thing, which happens a lot in the movies, so I actually really like that they put that in there. And your ramming and all that is very much dependent on what part of the cars you hit. I have the cleanup crew project, which means I don't have to get out and collect all that scrap myself. Cars have different weak points where there's less armor and things like that. Some cars are just basically spikes of tetanus, and you don't want to touch them. You want to harpoon them, shotgun the guys out, whatever it takes. The harpoon, depending on its upgrade level, can be used to rip off doors and rip people straight out of the driver's seat, to rip off tires, attach to the bumper and allow you to sort of like do a kind of boost into the bumper and ram them. It can even drag some cars around by their front grills and things like that. It's really kinetic and it's really satisfying. You can also use your shotgun, and you can do everything from shooting, oh yeah, there we go, from shooting gas tanks and things like that to just immediately blow them up, to flattening tires, to shooting off armor and other weapons. Some cars can do things like, you saw that car that I was fighting earlier, had what is basically a flame tank on the back that was like a makeshift flamethrower. There are some cars that can lay mines. There are some that explode and send out these like cluster barrels at you. There's a lot of variety in the cars that you're going to be facing off against. I like that a lot, actually. The enemy variety is surprising because they didn't have to put all that many different kinds in the game. They could have just been like goons with weapons, goons with knives, cars with spikes, but there are actually a lot of different types of vehicles. Even the convoy leader vehicles, which don't fight you, there are at least like 4 or 5 different kinds of them. And of course there are different factions as well. There are the actual war boys of the main antagonist, Scrotus, yes, that's his name, and there are the those crazy gas-masked sand people as well. Uh-oh. Okay, let's see if I can knock this guy off the car. There we go. So yeah, this is Mad Max, like in essence right here, this large kind of car fight. Let's use this Thunderpoon rocket here. Boom! With people jumping back and forth, with, I mean, this is the movies in essence, and I really like that they were able to capture it so well. Ugh. Yeah! I think they did an absolutely fantastic job with making it, oh god, don't stand in that, with making it really, really kinetic and frantic and fun. It's just plain fun, really. Gotcha. There's how you take out a convoy. So with all of these satisfying combat abound in the game, and the way that exploration is surprisingly effective because the wasteland is empty of life but not devoid of interesting places, that really makes the decision of them saying, kind of, you know, do it on your own time, a really good idea, and I'm really, really glad that they kind of took the decision to make it obvious you need to kind of explore on your own, and the game doesn't hold your hand throughout the wasteland. That's a big mistake, you know, that a lot of open world games make. And they didn't do that. Come on. Gotcha. Yeah, we just took that convoy apart, but this is one of the easier convoys. They do get a lot more tricky later on with a lot more cars, people with weapons, a lot more jumpers, those crazy kamikaze cars, and yeah, things like that. But the game is very intense. It's very high speed, which is exactly what you would expect. Oh, that's a little twister there. That'll pick up your car and toss you around. Let me see if I can just drive into it just to show you. And also there are storms. Oh god, there are storms. These storms are very intense and they will destroy you. So you do not want to be out. Give me that door. You don't want to be out of your car in a storm. They're laying mines. Because the storms are basically huge sandstorms, and in a post-apocalyptic world like this, they're very, very deadly. You have things like lightning strikes that are basically like miniature explosions. If lightning strikes your car directly, it's almost an instant kill every time. I'm sure if you had a lot of armor, it would be a little easier. But as it stands, the cars are not able to, oh god, withstand a lot of lightning strikes. It also blows debris everywhere. It makes it very hard for you to walk, and you can just get, like, slammed by big pieces of metal blowing around and stuff really, really easily. And it makes these storms very dangerous. Car combat in storms, although rare, is really, really fun. But also, there's a bit of risk-reward in the storms, and that there are these special boxes called mother loot boxes, because that's what they're called, that contain a huge amount of scrap, but they also are only found during storms. You have to harpoon them to actually keep a hold of them, and then try and loot them without getting your face destroyed by huge pieces of scrap metal flying at like 300 miles an hour in a storm. It's tough, but usually worth it because you can get several hundred scrap that way, which is quite a bit. So there, you've seen a good amount of actually what the game has to offer now, I feel. The combat here, I'll show you, that's how you counter. Very basic, the combat is not extremely difficult, but it can get harder. You have a Fury mode, which makes you very, very strong, and it makes some of your finishers different. You can snap people's necks, you can do all kinds of things like that. That builds up a lot of damage very easily. You can also shove people up against walls, and the combat changes depending on the environment you're in, which, again, is a lot like the movies, because in the movies, Max tends to use whatever's around him to sort of shove people into and things like that. It's very, almost Jackie Chan-esque way to do, like, fight scenes. The game does preserve that quite well. So my conclusion of the game is it's awesome. It's a really solid open world game with a lot to do. Some people were afraid that it would be a kind of Ubisoft style open world, and it is not. Some people have complained about the weather balloons, wow, hot air balloons, and that they're kind of like Ubisoft radio towers, but they're not really. The idea is you can find these hot air balloons, that you can go up in, and it will reveal a large part of the map, which is, you know, similar to a lot of Ubisoft games have you climbing radio towers. But there's a bit more interactivity in the hot air balloons. You sometimes have to refuel them or unanchor them. You usually they're parts of camps they have to fight your way through. And there's also things to loot at these camps as well, and instead of just getting a cutscene, you actually have to more or less, oh hey, food. More or less you have to actually get to the top of the hot air balloon and then use your binoculars manually to mark the map. So I think that's one of the main reasons it feels different than a radio tower. It's not like, ugh, I have to get up to this radio tower to get my map revealing cutscene. No, you don't actually get a cutscene. It's actually you manually revealing the map yourself. There we go, nice and easy. Running out of shotgun shells very quickly. Eat this rat. Delicious rat. So, what about the story? Well, without spoiling anything, the story is very, I guess what you would expect from a Mad Max game. A lot of eccentric characters and a lot of strange happenings. You're kind of trying to help out as many people as you can kind of survive in the wasteland while trying to make kind of tentative alliances with people and things like that. It's not like the best story ever written, but it is actually pretty good for the most part. And a lot of the characters, this being Mad Max, are seriously interesting and weird, so it's hard not to kind of admire a lot of the bits of story that you see. And again, the fact that the exploration and combat, both on foot and in cars, is so good, makes it pretty difficult to not appreciate what the game has you doing all the time, because I'd say it being repetitive is definitely a danger, but because the base gameplay is so satisfying, I don't really find it repetitive at all. Oh, I'm not in the right territory to get that scrap automatically, which means I'll have to get out. I'm gonna get you. See if I can just... Got him. So yeah, that's Mad Max in a nutshell. It's very solid, and I think it came out at the wrong time because everyone's going to be playing Metal Gear Solid, and I will be soon as well, but this game is not to be looked over. It is actually really, really enjoyable. It is not a bad licensed game at all. It's one of the best, and I would have to say that anyone who kind of passes it up as like movie fodder, you're not doing it right. It's actually really good, and I would highly recommend it. It is a fantastic open world experience with a lot going for it. So this has been Mad Max. It is available right now on Steam and Green Man Gaming, which I would recommend getting it from there. It is $60. However, if you go to Green Man Gaming, I'll link you to both in the description, by the way. Yeah, on GMG you can get it for like 20% off temporarily, so you can pay more like 48-ish for it, so that's nice. As you can see, the game looks great. It performs absolutely flawlessly, and I'm having way too much fun with it. Also, there is a capture mode in the game that pretty much every game should have. It lets you take really good pictures of different, kind of like how Grand Theft Auto 5's video mode works, only it's pictures and not video. So it lets you kind of have a free camera, go with whatever camera angles you want, and take really cool, awesome pictures of things and stuff like that. It is very solid. So yeah, the game is just solid all around is how I would describe it, and it's kind of a shame that it came out when it did, because I fear that as another open world game, it's going to be overlooked a bit, and that's not quite fair to it, because it's got a lot going for it. Mad Max, everyone, again, by Avalanche. These guys know how to make good PC games. They've been doing it for a while now, and I'm looking forward to Just Cause 3. Welcome to the Wasteland. I'd recommend it. And if you're looking for something to take a bit more of your time, then you could certainly do a lot worse. Oh god, not these things. The fights are fast, the vehicular combat is kinetic and frantic, and the places you can go get more and more interesting, because what you're seeing now of the Wasteland is only one section of it. You have a part that's like a big chalky reef, that obviously a lot of this used to be under the ocean. You have, later on, large bridges, subway systems, sewer tunnels that are huge. Gosh, you've got things like, ruined highways, huge dockyards with big rusted out cranes, and even a lot more urban environments and things like that that you actually can find later on once you get past the jaw and things like that. And you can actually, you might be surprised with the amount of variety in the environments when it seems like it's just a big kind of dusty wasteland, and how much more there is to it. The Dead Barrens, a lot of the Dead Barrens actually has a lot of remnants of industry and you know, a lot of vehicles and kind of blasted cityscape almost a bit. And of course there's Gastown, so yeah. But there you go, Mad Max, everyone. Highly recommended. Again, $60 on Steam and about 20% off on Green Man Gaming. I would highly recommend getting it there. I haven't shown you one of the camps, but I don't want the video to go on any longer, really. Maybe I'll make a bit more about the game, because I feel like there's so much to show off that it's a bit difficult to do it all in one video, and I don't want this video to be like an hour long. So I'm going to close it out here. Maybe I'll show you a bit more soon. In fact, I don't see why not, because I'm playing a lot of it. I might as well make some more videos of it. And if there's anything specific anyone wants to see or hear about, let me know. I would very happily oblige. So, Mad Max by Avalanche and Warner Brothers. Pick it up now in the links below. Uh-oh, there's a storm. Well, I guess I gotta show you this. And there it is. So, that's a storm. They're huge and awful. So, let me not close the video out just yet and show you what it's like to be in a storm. We're just gonna drive right towards it because we're crazy. Oh god. Oh yeah. So here we are, in the middle of a storm. Oh god, and those are lightning strikes, and there's all the debris getting blown around. Oh jeez. Let me see if I can find one of those loot boxes. The lightning strikes are so impressive, they're really cool looking. But yeah, as you can tell here, they cut down your visibility heavily and they're very, very dangerous. If you're actually outside of your car in a storm like this, you're pretty much screwed. Alright. I've also got to say that the sound design of the game is fantastic. I mentioned that the vehicle sounds and everything are really good, but also things like the storms, the echo effects are very haunting when you're in like caves and things. Oh god, okay. And there's also a significant amount of thought that's gone into the various weapon sounds and things like that. They're pretty crazy. Oh jeez, that one kind of caught me a little bit. So yeah, this, uh-oh, stay away from that. Ooh, this is Mad Max, and I couldn't be happier with it. I'm very satisfied with my purchase, and I think you will be too. So, thanks for watching, everyone. I'm gonna try and not get, horrendously murdered by lightning now. And I think that maybe for some people it'll be surprising just how much thought and love has went into this game, considering it could have easily been a lot less than it is. But hey, it's Avalanche. Have faith in them. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Oh my god.